Hello and welcome to the Root of It All podcast. This is a podcast put together by the team at Bosworth's Garden Centre. In this episode, Rosie speaks to Deb, Miriam, Simon and Martin about peat-free compost and the best way to use it. We also talk about ACEs, our plant of the month, and also jobs for the garden in March. So without further ado, let's get to it.
Is the camera rolling and is the microphone on?
Yes, so you see that red flashing light?
We're awake.
That means we're good. And this green light, that means we're good too.
I'm really happy for that.
So am I. And it's
Yeah, it was.
episode 4.
Episode 4.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Wow.
Episode 4.
Yeah.
Before we start episode 4,
Yes.
I've got a public service announcement to make.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I just want to say congratulations, you've made it to 50, Martin.
I am now officially 5-0, so I've hit the
Fabulous club.
half century. Feeling good.
You're feeling good?
Yeah.
Still alive?
Still feeling, yeah.
Didn't have any new ailments overnight? Or
No,
leg didn't fall off? Or...
no, I'm good. Yeah. Looking forward to the years ahead.
Should we sing happy birthday?
Oh, go on.
Happy birthday.
To you. Happy birthday.
Well, that is wonderful.
Are we finished now? Can we go?
Can I take my earplugs?
No.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about compost.
Compost.
And mainly the difference between peat-free compost and regular compost, and why you should choose it, or if it's the right choice for you, or if it's not the right choice for you.
Well, it'll have to be the right choice for everyone, because at the end of 2024, it should have gone across to all peat-free.
But now it's been delayed. That decision's been delayed by the government by a little while. So peat is still able to be sold, or peat-based composts, but most companies now are peat-free. They've all gone over to peat-free. Even our own Bossie compost is a peat-free mix.
Good. So what is peat, for people that don't know?
It's a natural medium that takes a long time to develop in the ground to make these peat bogs, which traps carbon into the ground and can't be replaced easily when you take it away. So that's why I think they're so reluctant about taking it, using it.
Yeah.
Because it's not something that will just come back in 10 years.
It's built over millions of years, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like decomposing
It's
of
very old
vegetation,
fauna, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
In a lot of bits in Ireland, it was historically used a lot to burn on fires, and also obviously to go into compost.
Right.
So
I take it because it is sort of broken down fauna. That's the word that I'm going to use.
yeah.
That's why it's so, like,
And it is-
why they use it, because it's nutritious for. Yeah.
It's also kind of like, in a way, a fossil fuel because it gets used in power stations en masse. So the garden centre industry actually only probably uses a small % of peat within its composts. And of course, we're being regulated now to try and stop using peat, which is a good thing. But I think they need to look at other areas as well if they're going to make an effective change in peat
Yeah. Okay.
and usage.
Yes,
well,
a
they
lot
have been
of,
experimenting a lot, haven't they?
yeah, wood bark, wood chips, coir,
Yeah.
wool, which comes from, farming, as other media to grow.
Which actually now wool is more of a byproduct than it used to be, because the wool industry is not anywhere near as
No, not productive.
it used to be. Yeah. So it's a lot of actually byproduct there.
Mm.
Interesting. So why is peat-free, or how is it different to the other composts?
I would say it's probably very brittle felt to it, sort of like it's sort of totally porous. So you need to make sure that you water well
Mm-hmm.
and let it dry out properly.
Okay.
It's also very fiber-like, shall I say? It's sort of almost like string and bark mixed together. It's that feel to it.
You need to. Have you mentioned that you need to make sure that you use it moist, because if you use it dry, it's difficult to wet it.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
you,
it does have problems with wetting, doesn't it?
yeah, you need to use it moist and then keep the moisture level up, because if it dries out, it's not so easy to re-wet it.
Yeah.
So you always need to make sure.
You have to be very careful not to overwater as well, because the top of
Yeah,
it looks
that's what
dry
you're
a lot of the time, doesn't it? And then you think you need to be checking properly, right?
One way of doing that is like getting your finger into the compost away from the root system, or if it's in a container, just lift the container.
Yeah,
Just lift up a corner of the container and just feel the weight of it. If it feels light, you know it needs water.
Well, there's a lot of customers about at the minute, which means that people are getting out and getting interested in the colour that's available.
Hey, I did some gardening.
Did you?
Yeah, I did some gardening on Sunday.
What did you kill?
What did I kill? I've got Matt saying, "What did you kill?" Deb saying, "What did you do?" I did some weeding, and I felt very nice. Yeah.
Good time of year to get weeding.
Yeah.
Stop those annual weeds getting a hold.
I was very proud of myself.
Did you feel better after getting out there and getting, at one with
Hands
nature?
dirty.
Genuinely, yes. Yeah, getting your hands dirty.
So all
Getting your
the
mud under your
waffling
nails.
we did a couple of weeks ago about serotonin levels and the beauty of gardening and how it makes you feel good. See, proof in the pudding.
Proof in the pudding, it works.
Another thing I was going to mention about the old peat, right, is if you're not happy, if you've gone and bought a bag of peat or you buy peat and you find that it's not the right texture or consistency, you can actually start putting things with it. You can buy some soil conditioner, which is like organic matter. You can buy bags of topsoil. And what you're doing is you're adding sort of like more nutrients, more moisture retention, and some of the soils and John Innes and stuff like that will hold nutrient for longer.
I've got a really important question.
Go on.
Because this is bothering me since I made a sign. What is John Innes?
John Innes is a certain ratio mix compost that is soil based, and I think it's got some added grit and certain feeds in it and certain texture, in order for you to be able to use it for permanent planting. I mean, I'd say ideally for shrubs, trees and roses in pots long term. Okay. You can use it also in the ground if you want to put a more heavier and more substantial compost around a hungrier plant.
So it was devised, I think it was something like 1953 by the John Innes Soil Institute. And it's anybody who makes John Innes, whoever makes it, has to go with the same recipe.
Okay.
So it's probably been tweaked over the last few years, but it all has to be of the same standard. So the same, so if it's made by one company or another, you know what you're getting.
Because you get a John Innes seed, number 1, 2 and 3, and there's ericaceous, but what you'll find is sometimes the finer compost finer compost is basically used for your seeds and your number ones, and then as you go up to number 3, you'll find it is slightly chunkier and there'll be more feed in it for a bigger plant.
Another question: what's ericaceous? What is
ericaceous? He's a bloke who used to work here. I don't know.
Ericaceous?
Yeah.
Well, ericaceous is the pH scale. So if you remember from school, your pH 7 is neutral, and anything below that is an acidic pH, and anything above it is an alkali pH. So some plants prefer and need the ericaceous, the acid around them.
Peat is acidic as well. Peat.
Okay.
Naturally, yeah.
In its natural environment, it would be acidic. Yeah. But rhododendrons, acers, which we're going to come on to, azaleas.
Blue hydrangeas,
To keep them blue,
need an acidic soil, because if not, and they go into an ordinary soil, they will start to turn pinky red, reddy pink. So there's quite a few plants that will benefit and need the acidic soil.
Okay. Do you think peat-free is as good?
there's nothing wrong with peat-free compost. It's about learning to use a different medium to what we've been using in the past. So peat-free compost, you can grow everything in them just like the other stuff, but you have to treat them slightly different. You have to water them more accurately. So sometimes you'll water your peat-free pot or ground, and then it'll look dry on the top, and you'll think, oh, it's all dried out, I need to water it again. Whereas actually the top bit dries quite quickly and the bottom will stay moist. So you can overwater without realising it.
That's really interesting.
And also, because it's quite porous and open as opposed to soil or peat-based compost, you will find that the nutrients do get washed out quicker. So you need to be replacing nutrients more by feeding more. So if you feed more and check you're doing the watering right, you should come out okay.
I would say it depends on preference, personal preference, but it is good for the environment. So
Yeah.
one needs to definitely change and take that into consideration.
Mhm.
And as Martin was saying, just add a few bits with something else to make bulk up, and eventually you'll get used to how to treat it properly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's here to stay, isn't it? Peat-free
Yeah.
compost is here to stay.
Mm.
So we all need to learn how to use it and how it best works for us as gardeners.
So we'll move on then to our plant of the month for March, which is aces. Beautiful, beautiful aces.
Of which we had a delivery yesterday.
Yeah, so they're all here.
Anything from what price did you see? $6.99.
£6.99, yeah.
From a tiny pot all the way up to
£1,249.
I take it that's a big one. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a pretty good old specimen. You know,
Yeah.
they are, and they're lovely plants. Lovely
They're
plants.
beautiful.
So if you want instant impact, I mean, you know, there are prices in between that. So $24.99, $39.99, $44.99, going up to 60, 100, 250. So it just depends on the type of plant, the variety, and the maturity.
Thing to remember about aces, another ericaceous plant, or ideally they like acidic soil rather. But also they like a sheltered position. So sometimes if you put it out in the middle of the garden and it's quite blowy, they can get a bit of wind scorch. The buds can get damaged, the leaf buds.
I think that's what's happened to mine. It's got red leaves, but they kind of went a bit greeny.
Yeah,
Green.
I mean they do turn colour throughout the year, so that might be quite normal.
It looks not normal.
Okay.
When did you last feed it? Is it in a pot?
No, it's in the ground.
ground.
Yeah.
Be worth giving it a mulch of ericaceous or some granules around the base and just work them in.
Yeah. Give it a feed.
Yeah.
There we go. I'm getting top tips here, guys.
So so sheltered position from the worst of the wind.
Yeah.
And a bit of shade doesn't hurt them either. So dappled shade or part shade, part sun is great for aces. And they're beautiful plants. You know, everybody loves an acer. They just look fantastic.
Maintenance as well, aren't
Oh,
they?
they're great, aren't they?
The only thing that to look out for, perhaps in the spring, as the foliage starts to emerge, would be tiny little fly. So just inspect it regularly, just to make sure there's nothing on that. But they can be dislodged with a jet of water.
Yeah.
So just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and you always have to look out for dieback, little bits that you have to remove.
Oh, I've got that on one of mine.
Yeah,
It's got
so
a dead arm.
that whatever that piece is, you just remove, clap with the diagonal so that the water doesn't go into it.
It's almost like a defence mechanism, isn't it? Because in the cold winters, when they've lost their leaf, you know, you will get a bit of dieback on a lot of the stems, but it's just, I suppose, it's just protecting itself. It's keeping its sap, you know, part way up.
Yeah.
So just as the buds start to emerge, like you say, just snip them off, tidy it up, and that's really the only time you need to prune. If it grows, some people would tend to keep them shaped, acers. So if it goes, you know, if it's growing out where you don't want it, then you can prune it. But as they're slow growing, you know, it's tended only to be sort of the dieback that gets cut off.
Yeah.
Just to keep them going.
A brilliant plant as well, because you can get weeping forms and upright forms, so you could find a plant that suits your needs.
Yeah.
They're reasonable grown.
You also even get them in bonsai form.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is just like Lapis stars. If you've got these beautiful colours, it just shows up the garden and it's very peaceful.
The ornamental acers, they do tend to grow a lot slower. Some of the varieties, which is why sometimes the price reflects that.
Yeah.
Because somebody's been growing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it could only be like 4 or 5 foot high.
Yeah.
They are a good tree. If you're going to put a tree in a pot, you can put them in a large pot. They'll thrive there. And of course, you can, if they're not happy in the position they're in, you can move a pot, whereas in the garden you can't. And you can buy some lovely sort of themed Japanese or Asian pots if you're creating that sort of garden.
So if you love acers, and it's something I'd like to do, is go and see them in their natural habitat. So acers were sort of discovered in Asia, Mongolia, fringes of Japan, Korea, that sort of thing. And in the autumn, you have got this acres and acres and acres of, the autumn colour of acres, and it is, a really decent, really good thing to see. I've seen footage of it, and it is quite amazing, like fire reds, and it looks like hillsides and places are on fire just with the intensity of the acres. Another real good time to visit Japan is in April, May, when it's the Sakura festival. So that is the prunus. So you've got, again, what looks like fields and fields and fields of ornamental cherries in flower.
Oh wow, yeah.
And a lot of their streets, where we would have in this country sort of horse chestnut, there would be just miles and miles and miles of cherry trees.
Yeah, we need to do that.
I know. Yeah, but they celebrate, don't they? They sort of sit sort of with picnics and families and under the blossom. So because it's so transient, it's to celebrate new life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Should we do a
trip?
The root of it all outside broadcast from Japan?
Visits Japan.
Do you think we could do that?
That'd be fab, wouldn't it?
I don't know.
Swing that on the account.
I don't know if that's in the marketing budget, guys, but
got petty cash.
So, what was it? We were going on jobs for March, weren't we? What things we got to do to sort of get things ready? I've been looking out in my garden and already thinking I want to get out and get going on it. Just in the last week, I've sort of
it's
starting to get motivated.
It's the weather, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because when it's nice, you do look out and you think, "Oh, I could just nip out and do that." But as soon as it starts raining, I might have changed my mind now.
A lot of cutting back of stuff at the minute. Weeds. One question I'd like to ask, maybe someone you would know, with regard to not using pesticides, what would be the best way of getting rid of a plant, which season and with what felling, without harming the natural bees and pollinators and stuff? It's Hypericum. The little short one. It's very much ingrained in rock, stone, and I want to, and as well ivy, which is a big problem at the minute where we live.
Digging it out is probably the most.
That is, but it's going to be.
There are systemic killers you can use that become inactive once they hit the soil. So there are things you can paint the leaves and branches with. You have to do it a few times, and it'll kill the plant right through. And as soon as it comes into contact with soil, it becomes inactive.
Yeah, it breaks down.
So it won't kill your lawn or anything else, but it will kill that.
This time, because obviously you need a little bit of heat for it to.
Yeah, you don't want to be doing it when it's raining either.
This is the thing. So, and if you wait a little bit longer, you start getting into spring again, and then all the pollinators. You don't want to kill them either.
So one way of spraying, if you've got something in the middle and you have to spray, and it's in the middle of somewhere else, is get yourself a little cardboard box and cut the bottom off of it. So you've got the sides and the flaps. Put it over the plant or the weed or whatever you're trying to eradicate. Go in with your spray gun and spray. Give it a few moments. Take your hand out and leave the flaps on top of the box so the box is closed, and any spray drift will go into the cardboard.
That's a good idea.
So it's a protective.
Yeah, it just
thing,
stops it spreading everywhere.
so it doesn't spread. So it's only concentrated on where you want it to be. If you use a weed killer and it's in a border with other plants, it will kill the plants because that's what it does.
Yeah.
So if you kill that, let the spray dry into the box. So give it, if on a warm day, give it an hour or so, and any spray drift is dried in, and then you can just remove the box.
Yeah.
So then you're just weed killing that little bit.
Yeah.
Another thing to do is put a flower pot or something on top of it and leave it there for a few days, and then you know what you've done, where you've been, and you know not to then, dig around there.
Yeah.
So only if it's like a 6-inch or 8-inch flower pot, stick it on top with a bit of brick or something just to hold it in place. And then if it does rain, it stops it getting wet and damaging, washing away or potentially washing away what you've sprayed on there. So then it will just do its thing, work its way back into the root system, and hopefully knock it off or restrict, or reduce its growth.
That's a really good. I like that.
I'll definitely give it a try, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's other things you can start doing. We were saying the other day, I mean, if you've made compost or you can start mulching or continue mulching around all your plants, and that will help feed going into the spring.
Yeah.
Plants start to actively grow. That'll give them the goodness to get going. Like Miriam said, more pruning needs to be done.
Yeah.
So make sure that if you haven't done it already, make sure you start pruning your roses. Still too early to prune some things like hardy fuchsias and hydrangeas, so leave them alone.
Oh, interesting, because I was gonna cut mine right back actually the other day.
No,
so
leave those alone. We'll tell you when you need to start doing those.
Thank you.
A bit later in the year. Look at your grasses as well. Now it's starting to warm up a little bit. If you've got any annual grasses that have died back, the dead foliage has been left over winter.
Yeah.
So before they start growing a lot from the middle, you want to start combing out all the dead grass.
Yeah.
And then trimming a lot of the old grass off to allow space for the new grass to grow.
Stuff.
I mean, if there's nothing starting to grow yet, leave them a little bit longer. But once they start to grow, you want to do them as soon as you've got like 6 inches of growth.
Yeah.
If you leave them too long, it's going to be difficult to get all the individual blades out.
And then it doesn't look very nice, does it, with all the
No. And you can use, once you've got certain far, you can use like a comb.
Okay.
To get in to comb a lot of the dead out, like a pet comb, something like that.
Yeah.
Which is quite fine. And then you can get in, and all the old grass will come out, and then you can just get rid of it.
Yeah.
And it'll just allow the new plant to breathe, and looks better.
If you have got areas of the garden where you haven't got to sort of go out and chop back and weed, some of the weeds that do come up this time of year will have flowers for early pollinators. So if you can leave them, if you've got areas where you can leave a little bit wild for a couple of months now until you get all your late spring, early summer bedding, flowering rather, then that will help the early pollinators, even things like dandelions and stuff like that.
Some bumblebees already.
That's it.
So daisies.
I tend to leave my front garden for a while and let them just have what they need.
Another thing to do at this time of year is, by end of February, beginning of March, is cut back your autumn fruiting raspberry canes.
Okay.
So there are 2 types of raspberry canes: summer fruiting and autumn. Autumn will fruit on the current year's growth, so you cut them back to the ground. Summer fruiting will fruit on the previous year's new canes.
Okay.
So if a summer fruiting raspberry and it's finished flowering, you cut that stem that's fruited down.
Yeah.
And it allows the new shoots, new canes that are being produced this summer for next year. But if it's autumn fruiting, you cut them back end of Feb, beginning of March, because they will fruit on new growth.
Interesting. I was very confused then. I was like, right, so if it's in there and then
So autumn fruiting cuts in May, in Feb.
Yeah. Amazing. All right, I think that's it for today, guys. Mine's already warmed up.
Are you making the tea?
Has it gone to make the coffee? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's coffee time.
I'll go and make the cup of tea.
Have you got any biscuits?
We have got digestives. I'll be back in a moment.
Thank you, mate.
Okay.
Well, that's it for today. As always, thanks for listening, and we will see you on the next one. Experience the magic of Bosworth's Garden Centre, proudly serving our community since 1959. Our family-owned centres feature delightful cafes, breathtaking landscaping, and an on-site nursery growing over 1 million plants yearly. Browse our stunning collection of home gifts, garden furniture, and pet supplies, all backed by our professional, helpful team. Download our free loyalty app for exclusive rewards and special offers. Visit us in Burton Latimer or Elton, or shop online at bosworthsgc.co.uk. Bosworth's Garden Centre, bringing nature's beauty to your doorstep since 1959.